Great guest in studio with some riveting radio real estate here on a Friday morning. Don Pannell, good morning.
Good morning.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. Feeling riveting.
Feeling
Nice.
riveting. Well, it's nice to see you. Good to see you at the gala last week. And
Yes.
again, big congratulations to Ron, that wonderful award.
That
given
was
by
awesome.
John Lester there.
That was awesome. He was really, really touched by
I
that.
saw the picture after. Was
Yeah.
was he awake when you got home?
He was. He was actually.
And he had no idea, huh?
No, it was really hard not to tell him too.
Oh,
I bet.
how cool.
I thought about especially when I knew he wasn't going to be there, but I thought, well, I'll just play it out to the end.
Pretty
And
cool.
yeah, it was neat.
President's Choice Award
Yes.
for all the long time goodwill.
He's done
that
a
Ron
lot.
has done in the
He
community.
has done a lot. Great guy.
All right,
Yeah.
let's talk about some riveting radio real estate breaking. The Hirst decision last night.
The Hirst decision. This is kind of interesting. It's kind of combining my past life as a politician
Yeah.
with real estate stuff. There's been a great concern about this Hirst decision.
Yes, it
has to do with water drilling for wells and things like that, and pretty much everything came to a crashing halt because nobody knew whether if they bought a vacant piece of property they were going to be able to put a well on it.
Yeah.
Well, they just voted, passed in the Senate 35-14 and in the House 66-30 to allow landowners in rural areas to tap household wells.
Nice.
So there are some caveats, which I don't necessarily think are bad things. The concern about this was that all of these exempt wells were depleting the in-stream flows and the available water. So that is a good thing to be concerned about. Even in Washington, where we get all this rain, we do need to be a little bit concerned about water. But this compromise brings needed relief to rural families that just want to drill a small household well. I mean, it looks like they will be able to do that for a fee. They're looking at, I think right now, a $500 fee while watersheds kind of get their act together. Some of the environmental groups, the tribes and things like that, were concerned about depleting the water rights for senior water right holders like tribes and municipalities and farmers and things like that. So until the new watershed plans can be put in place, landowners would be able to drill a new household well for a $500 fee. So that is a good thing for vacant land sales, hopefully, that will free up some land that's just been sitting there. People didn't want to touch it if they didn't think they were going to be able to put a well on it.
I
So
was talking to some folks about buying some property and getting ready to put some land, get a house kind of in the middle portion of Mason County.
Right.
And they were talking about having to do the well before they even really owned the property.
Right. Some people were doing that because we just weren't sure. You know, this was kind of a holdover from 2 years ago, really, and it kind of held the capital budget hostage because they refused to pass the capital budget until this was addressed. So now that it has been addressed, presumably they can go ahead and, I'm not sure if they have done the capital budget yet or if they're in the process.
It's the same kind of deal.
Same thing. Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. So, that was good news. It's, you want to be a little sensitive to the need to protect our water, but then on the other hand, you don't want to make it so that land is unusable either.
Yeah. And a lot of it too seemed to be that there is such a stark difference between the east and the west in water,
Exactly.
and the aquifers and things like that.
Exactly. But even here in the West, where presumably, we have all kinds of water, it's not an infinite supply. So you do have to be concerned. So I was glad to see that they didn't just give everybody carte blanche. They put some caveats with it to be sensible about the thing. So
Good. Then hopefully that bodes well for
I hope
real
so.
estate around the area.
I hope so. Everybody has some vacant land listings that have just been kind of sitting there languishing. So hopefully this will allow them to start moving forward and sell, because the goal is to have them be built on, or have their highest and best use. So that's what we want. So
We've been going through the ABCs
We
of
have.
real estate here.
Yeah, we actually only got through A last time. So.
I was asking you all sorts of questions.
Right. Which is okay. That's all right. But so B
Yeah.
in the ABCs of real estate is backup offer, and this is kind of an interesting one. We're seeing these more and more often. What that is an offer on a home under contract, so a home that's already under contract, and it becomes active only if the primary contract falls through. So if you see a listing that you really, really like, or perhaps you had made an offer on it and somebody else got the offer, you can put a backup offer in if the seller agrees. The seller has to agree to allow a backup offer.
Oh, that's nice then.
Yeah, and most of the time they do, because really it's no skin off their nose. So if the first offer, for whatever reason, falls through, for either the buyer loses their financing or they change their mind or whatever,
Rejected or whatever.
yeah, it's rejected for a number of reasons,
Right.
then this backup offer goes into play. It has to be an actual written offer. It can't just be a verbal thing. There's a whole separate form that you fill out, and it also has to be accompanied with an actual offer, so you can't change the rules in midstream. So, but I've seen it happen where this backup offer has come into play, and the people end up getting the property.
Does the main buyer know that there's a backup offer?
They can. Sometimes that the buyer's agent uses that as a negotiation tool, saying, hey, we have a backup offer in play, and so.
So this is almost as if it's their full-fledged offer. It's not when a real estate person will say, we've got multiple offers.
No, that's different. Right. That's just more or less a verbal thing. This is actually a written offer, and there's language in the paperwork that says that this only comes into play if the initial offer falls through.
So there's no earnest money changing hands or anything like that. This
Not
is just
not
an
until
agency.
not until it's accepted, as it moves from a backup offer to a primary offer.
Probably another great reason to have a letter from your lender telling you, hey, this person is good to go. Here's the
Exactly.
money and the finances. Otherwise,
Exactly.
scoot right in there.
Right. And if the person who has the backup offer finds something else in the meantime, then they just withdraw the backup offer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's actually a good position to have if you're a buyer, because it doesn't completely close the door
Right.
on a property that you may really like. But having said that, you have to wait until and if the initial offer falls through.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Very cool.
So you want to hang your hat on that one if you're the backup person. But
No, you might want to still keep looking, but it's a good thing to have kind of in your back pocket.
how often do these deals fall through?
I've only had a couple in my career so far, but they do happen. Financing runs into problems, or they don't like something about something that they find in the inspection, or some reason that the initial buyer decides not going to do this one. So our properties come back on the market fairly often, for a variety of reasons. So then it becomes, if you don't have a backup offer in place, then it becomes the buyer's agent's responsibility to try and find out why that first offer fell through, because it might be something that affects their client as well,
Right.
that they might not want it now either. So,
Right.
so it's all a negotiation tool.
How often do you have to work? And now we're totally off.
Yeah.
Your letters. But
We're not going to.
We're not going to get to see.
That's next time.
That next time to see. Yeah.
How often do you have to work as perhaps a counselor to someone who is close to buying the property, but then all of a sudden gets a gut feeling, and whether or not to continue with the deal because the ball has been moving,
Right.
or that's. We're talking $100,000, $200,000.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
You say, listen, if you feel like something maybe Sixth
Yeah.
Sense or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I think I always laugh that I think probably 75% of this job is counseling. And there, I believe in gut feelings, that sometimes there is. What you have to be cautious about is there are reasons to back out of a deal where you get your earnest money back. If you back out just because you have a gut feeling and there's no other something to back that up, then as the buyer you run the risk of losing your earnest money. There are usually reasons, either through the inspection or through the title contingency, or the financing contingency follows you all the way through till the end of the transaction. So if you're backing out because all of a sudden your lender is saying, well, wait a minute, this isn't going to work, then that's a legitimate reason. So you have to be a little careful.
So you have to have a reason.
You have to have a
pretty
reason.
much,
Yeah,
like
it's
termites or the roof, or
Yeah.
the inspection went bad.
But having said that, I really encourage buyers to be honest with their agents and say, hey, I just all of a sudden don't have a good feeling about this. And so then it becomes the agent sitting down with the buyer and saying, okay, well, let's talk through this. I've only had one case that I can think of where I was representing the buyer and they did not get their earnest money back. And it was a case where even though I'm representing the buyer and working for their best interest, had to say, hey, you know what, you're being flaky, and I'm not going to. I can ask that the seller give you your earnest money back, but it's totally up to them whether they want to or not, because you can't
not, just change your mind.
Yeah, you're not,
because you found something better.
Yeah, you as the buyer are not following the rules. So I can't in good conscience say I'm going to demand that you get your earnest money back because you've lost that right. yeah. So, but that becomes a conversation then between the agent and the buyer, saying, okay, here's the deal. You run the risk of losing your earnest money. Do you still want to back out? And in that case, they did. So. And they lost their earnest money. So it doesn't happen often, but it does happen, and it should be. If you have a good relationship with your real estate agent, it should be an ongoing conversation throughout the whole process,
right?
So that we want everybody to be comfortable with the end result. We don't want them to feel like they were forced into buying this place if they really didn't want it.
Right.
Hopefully they would have come to that conclusion sooner rather than later in the process.
You would think.
But yeah, it is a conversation.
Well, we're just about out of time. Of course, railroading the conversation.
We'll get to see next time.
Those were good questions, though. So
yes,
yeah,
they were.
How can they get in touch with you, Don?
They can call me at 360-490-4493. I would love to become your real estate agent counselor, and that I do have a background in that, so that's cool. That's cool. And they can come see me at the corner of 3rd and Railroad. And as I always say, if I'm not there, they'll know where I am.